So, I think every now and then we kind of just forget the level of greatness of certain games. We either overestimate how good they were or kind of underestimate how well they were made. And I think that happens a lot with most of us. And for me, it most recently happened with the Uncharted series. And most of you know the Uncharted series, I think. It's one of the more mainstream gaming series ever made. And that's mostly due to the PS4. The PS4 made a lot of games kind of mainstream and made them kind of more accessible to the general public. And that's kind of its own fault. You don't falter into that world. But I'm not getting into whether that's something good or something bad. That's another talk for another day. I wanted to talk a bit about the Uncharted series because we kind of remembered it wrong, or at least I did. The way that I remember the Uncharted series was 1 was shit, 2 was one of the best games ever made, 3 and 4 just existed. That's how I kind of remembered it. Yeah, I think I was way off the mark on that one. You'll see what I mean in a bit. And yes, I'm trying something weird with my facial hair. Fuck off. So I'll start off with the first of the series, which is Uncharted 1. It is a great start to the franchise. No Uncharted game is bad. I'll start off with that, and a lot of people think that Uncharted kind of ripped off Tomb Raider, which is not the case at all, because I take Uncharted over Tomb Raider any fucking day. So if a ripoff is better than the original probably sucked. Not to say that Tomb Raider sucked. Tomb Raider had a bunch of great games. The franchise isn't a bad franchise necessarily, but there are so many games that they were bound to have some major flops. I'm gonna talk a bit about each and every game for like a bit, and then I'm gonna kind of give the whole general major things that the whole franchise gets right. I think that's the better way to go about doing it, because there's a lot to cover. There's a lot of ground to cover, but I'm gonna try to keep it as short as possible. Uncharted 1 kind of started off and had a bunch of clunky mechanics, which is fine because it came out in 2007 and they just started off the franchise with that, which is a great start because the story is very good. It's not the best in the franchise, but it's very good. The pacing is alright, the characters are very great, the voice acting is fantastic. I won't comment on the voice acting because I'm going to talk about that later in the video. The combat mechanics are pretty good, the shooting mechanics are okay. The hand-to-hand combat was fine, but I fucking hate the brutal combo in the first Uncharted game. Because the brutal combo is literally impossible to pull off. Like if a guy had a gun to my head and was like, pull off a brutal combo in Uncharted 1, I'd be like, just put me out of my misery already. I would willingly, literally, suck a cock instead of trying to pull off a brutal combo. Okay, maybe not literally, but you get the point. That was basically my only complaint in the Uncharted 1 game, but the brutal combo isn't even necessary, so it's not like you need it to pass a level or anything, so I'm fine with it. I don't mind it at all. Because yeah, it kind of sucked that it didn't work, but that's okay, because you don't need to do it anyway. You can still shoot people and dropkick them, which I did a lot of, by the way. Uncharted 2 came along, and Uncharted 2 is the best way possible to do a sequel, because Uncharted 2 took everything that Uncharted 1 couldn't do or did shittily and actually perfected it. The hand-to-hand combat was massively improved, the gunplay was insanely better, the story was fantastic, the pacing was great. The whole Uncharted 2 was like the one thing that I remember properly about the entire franchise is that Uncharted 2 is the best game in the franchise, and it is one of the best games ever made. I can put it in like a top 30 best games ever made. Literally. It's such a good game, and people overlook how good Uncharted 1 is and shit on it maybe more than it deserves, but Uncharted 2 definitely pulls some of that weight off because that game is so fucking good. Moving on, you had Uncharted 3, which was a good game, like on a chart, which I'm gonna progressively put the Uncharted games on. Number 1 is definitely Uncharted 2, and number 4, I'm not gonna talk about Lost Legacy. Not because I have anything against it, but just haven't gotten around to playing it and haven't been too interested about it. And the bottom of the list would be Uncharted 1, which is good, because if your first game in your entire franchise is the best, then you definitely did something wrong. Uncharted 3 ranks at number 3, which works in this situation, but it's second to last, because it's better than 1, but it's not better than 2 or 4. The story is pretty good, it's not a bad story, it kind of delves into how Sully and Nathan got to meet, which Sully, by the way, is one of the main characters that keep appearing in the entire franchise. Sully is one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise. He's basically the father figure slash best friend slash partner in crime of Nathan. And Sully is just such a great character. But I'll get into that in a little bit. Uncharted 3, basically, it's not a bad game, but my main complaint about it, and here's where the whole brutal combo parallel thing kind of comes in. The brutal combo in the first game, you didn't have to do it, but you can do it. But it's alright. And the Uncharted 3 game, you had to do hand-to-hand combat against one enemy type, which is the Brute. You could not shoot them to kill them. You had to hand-to-hand combat them, which sucked ass, because there's nothing difficult about it, there's nothing undoable about it, but it's just like, it's just too repetitive. But it's okay, but that's my one major complaint in the entire franchise. Uncharted 3 kind of pokes at the idea of why are we still doing this, and just kind of pulling away from this life and all that, but they just kind of let go of that idea halfway through the game, and they just never mention it again in that game, which kind of sucked. I felt like that was just missed opportunity, but not to worry, because they poke at it again in the fourth Uncharted game, where they introduced Sam, Nathan's long thought to be dead, turns out to be he wasn't dead, but he was in prison for 15 years, brother, and and I think they pulled off a great ending to the Nathan Drake kind of story. And they did really poke at the idea of maybe we should stop, maybe like it's enough is enough. You're adrenaline junkies, but you gotta just pull away from it. It's an obsession, but you gotta stop, etc. They did a good job on that story, and Uncharted 4 definitely ranks at number 2 for me. Well, first of all, there's no other place for it, but also because Uncharted 4 isn't better than Uncharted 2, but it's still a very good game. Like, visually, I'm not going to talk about it because it has to be visually pleasing. It's a new-gen game, but it is very visually impressive. But the gameplay is very good, the gunplay is definitely improved, hand-to-hand combat is pretty good, and the story is fine. But they also introduced the story's better than fine, sorry. But they introduced the stealth mechanic, which is very good because it was always there in the other games, but they just never really. It wasn't practical, but in this game it's very practical. And I think they did a good job on Uncharted 4, and the way that it ended, and the whole that everything has an ending. I'll talk about that in the end. And I think there are two main reasons why this franchise has such a wide demographic, because it does have a wide demographic. It's not just a game for kids, it's not a game for teens, it's not a game for adults or retired people, it's not a game for people who passionately play games or casually play games. You can have never played a single goddamn game and go into Uncharted. That's how wide of a demographic this game has, and I think one of the many reasons behind it, I'm gonna talk about two, and they feed into each other. The first being that a game feels like an actual movie. And if you've played the game, you'll understand what I mean. Because the story, the way that the game actually plays out, it feels like an actual movie. And a good movie at that. I mean, if Uncharted was made into a movie, could you imagine the hit that it would be? Well, I think they did, because they're kind of making it into one. But seriously, Tom Holland as Nathan Drake? Why not just get my fucking 7-month-old nephew to play? Oh, deep breaths. Anyway, the game really feels like a movie. And one of the reasons why it feels like a movie is the second reason why Uncharted is so appealing. And it's the voice acting, the chemistry between the characters. The voice actors in the entire franchise are some of the best in the business. Like, if you took every single big name, well, back then where there weren't big names, but if you take what are now big names in the voice acting industry, put them in one game, you got Uncharted. And there's no way you could have flopped it, because the story was magnificently written. There's actual chemistry between the real people that are playing the characters, which enhances what you get as a final product, as the conversations between the characters, the dialogue. The characters within the game feel like actual people, which is difficult to pull off when you're talking about a game. And just the little bits of unnecessary yet essential dialogue, and you'll understand what I mean in a second, they're just hidden in the game left and right. Like, that really increases the experience, enhances the experience. Like, for example, when an enemy throws a grenade at Nate, he panicked. That bit isn't subtitled. That's just there. And they didn't need to put that in. He could have just been a straight face, just shoot him up, go in, go out, guns blazing. But he isn't. That's really what enhances the feel that that character is actually real, because he's not a badass, cool guys don't look at explosion. He is a badass, but the guy is real, he's human. He panics when a building falls and he's climbing on it, because it's what he should be reacting, how he should be reacting. When people are shooting at him and he's cornered, he panics, because that's what he should be doing. Those little bits of dialogue left and right, they really enhance the experience. I think the main thing that kind of frightens us all is the end. Because the end of anything, any journey that you're taking, is definitely scary, but it gives the meaning to the whole journey that you are taking. Because, like, take for example, the easiest example I can give is an anime called One Piece. Wherever I'm gonna put it. One Piece has so many episodes, I'm not even joking. I would have ended that anime like years ago. Like, that kind of just takes away the fun of it, because yeah, I mean, you don't want anything to end that you enjoy, but the end of it gives it meaning. And I think that's what kind of shines through in the fourth Uncharted game, A Thief's End. And it kind of just like shines a light on that thing where it was fun, but I mean, eventually you're gonna have to pull the curtain on that one, and you're just gonna have to let that go. And I think that's the hardest thing to do sometimes. I mean, I'm not even gonna be able to do for the rest of my life. I hope I can, but I don't think I'm probably gonna be able to do forever. Either because the fucking platform shuts down or whatever other reason comes along, but Uncharted 4 really pulls that off with the epilogue at the end as well. I think they did that very nicely. And yeah, that was my video on the Uncharted series. Subscribe if you enjoyed this type of content, like the video if you did. Sharing my content is very appreciated. If you do like my content, share it with people you know. I don't mind it at all. Do whatever you think is best. That's all any of us can, really. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're pulling through these hard times that we're going through. And I will see you guys in the next video. As always, stay safe. Peace.